This is a good time to point out that it's worth having a well-stocked first aid kit in your shop. Let me give you a quick tour of what I have in mind and what I'm going to do to fix this damaged thumb. Hey, welcome down to the shop, fellow maker. Bill here, and I've got a little bit of a project to work on. This is a kit of Reaper's guns from Overwatch. I got this from my pal Jordan over at Henchmen Studios. This guy I thought would be the perfect accompaniment to my Reaper costume. Now, I don't have a full Reaper costume, but I do have a business Reaper costume that I wore to BlizzCon last year. I'll be bringing it back this year. This time with a super cool gun. Only problem, I lost one of the parts of the kit. Actually, I think I lost two parts of the kit. So today, we're gonna do some model making. We're gonna rebuild a couple of the parts of this kit so that I can finish it up for BlizzCon. These are the parts that I have over here. There are a couple of pieces to this kit. I don't know what this part should be called, but that's the part that I lost. Plus the hammer that goes in there, a little nub. That's what's missing. Now, I could 3D model and 3D print all of this, but I thought it'd be fun to do it with more traditional techniques and materials. So I have here some Sintra, aka PVC foam board. That's what I'll be building most of this out of, starting with making a quick template. I have a piece of construction paper here to kind of figure out the design of our part, and I have it the appropriate length to cover the part we need, with kind of the halfway point marked out, kind of like that. And I'm starting to draw the design, the side view of it, and that'll be stretched over the top. So I'm going to make this flat, then bend it over where it needs to go. That's the plan anyway. So I know kind of that's how big that circle needs to be there, and then trying to figure out how far back it needs to go based on this reference image, and it's just a little bit further behind here, so it kind of needs to go back to about here. Yeah, so I'm just gonna kind of guess this shape here a little bit, cut it out, lay it on there, and see if it looks good. This is my template so far. I've got half of it, but it's folded over. So I should be able to just cut this out very carefully with a straight edge and have a template that I can then flatten and use to cut my material. Something I do want to remember to put in there is a little bit of a groove here. So I want to make sure that gets added to the final piece. So that's there. And the rest of this just needs to get cut out. Great! That is our template. When it's all flattened like that, I should be able to make a piece from it. And also, I should be able to see if it fits in the model. I think it might be a little long. The length looks good, but this part here is a little long and this is interfering. That should be snug right there. So I think I have to lose a little bit of that. So I can trim it and update my template. So I just cut this out and overlapped it, and I'm taping it back together, and sure enough, that fits much better that way. In fact, that looks pretty perfect. So I'm calling that good. So now it's time to get to cutting. So this is a 1/8 inch thick foam PVC board, aka Sintra. And to get my template to stay down, I've got some double-sided tape here. So I'm just gonna tack a couple pieces on there and stick it down. Tape applied, pattern laid down flat. I can poke through these holes here for my center marks. Whoop, and whoop, like that. And then I have a white colored pencil to trace it so that we can actually see it on this black material. Crazy, right? Quick trace and peel up. there is our piece ready to cut out. Now I'm going to save this template in the highly unlikely chance that I ruin this and I need to trace it again. So I'm going to put that in a safe place. Before I do any cutting, I want to get a little bit of an indent started where these circular parts are going to go. So I have a 1/2 inch Forstner bit. I'm going to put it into that little indent I made. And I don't need that to go all the way through. That's just where I'm going to glue a piece in later. And now I know that it's a perfect circle and it's in the right spot. Let's do that on both sides. Perfect. In an attempt to do this as low tech as possible, I'm going to cut most of this out with my XACTO knife. And this foam PVC is fairly rigid, but if you take your time and run the blade through a couple times, you can get a nice clean cut. Just like that, right through. So yes, this is tedious. I would probably normally do this on a bandsaw, but today we're going old school. Finishing it up, there we go. Awesome. Let's see, these ended bits need to be round, but I'm going to just cut them close and clean it up with some sanding. So I left a little bit of meat on there, and I have my rotary tool right here so that I can just round it off a bit. That's pretty close. I can come in with sandpaper and kind of refine that a bit, or come in with files, or my files, and work on this shape a little bit until I'm happy with it. Once I'm there, then I can get to heat forming this bad mamma jamba. Okay, I need to bend this around in that direction and match the back contour of that gun. That fits there, no problem. But it needs to be bent all the way around. So here's the plan. Got a few pieces of wood, a couple pieces of MDF, and a piece of that PVC plastic. Really just so that I get this to the appropriate thickness of the handle. I'll glue these together and then shape this with the rotary tool so that it's the right shape, and then I can heat this and bend it around it. That's the plan anyway. Let's see how it turns out. Just using super glue here. I'm not really picky about how well this is going to hold or anything. This is just a quick form. I'm going to use it once and then throw it away. Let's do that. There we go. Just clamp this together for a little bit and then we'll make our form. So here's my appropriately thickness piece of sandwich here, and I need to shape this so that it's rounded similar to that right there, to the form I need. So lots of different ways to do this for today. Since I'm going low tech, I just have my rotary tool, and I'm going to use this to kind of round out the length of this. I'm going to make a lot of dust, so I have my shop vac here. I have my dust mask here so I don't breathe in any of this terrible MDF or plastic. So up next, lots of sanding. All set up here, clean this up, the faces a little bit, and drew on. The edges I need to take off first so I can kind of work down to those, and then I'll smooth it over a bit, probably just by hand. Yeah, so here we go. Great, got the bulk of the material down. I'm gonna kind of true everything up with just a hand sanding block here and get it closer to what I think it ought to be. That looks okay. I think that'll work. Let's see, this is gonna go on there and bend around like that. Next step, time for heat forming This will go on there, and I think I'll just try and tape it down. We'll see how that works. Got a line there to keep it mostly centered, I hope. Let's do that, and then let's do this too. Okay, cool. That seems fairly secure on there. Now I should be able to just heat up this area and then bend it down. I might try and do one side then the other. If you're doing this yourself and you're not used to using a heat gun, it gets very hot, maybe wear gloves. I feel pretty confident, but if I burn myself, that's on me. Whoop. There we go. Just gonna hold that there. Let it cool down. And then I'm gonna tape this side down so that hopefully when I do the other side, it doesn't go anywhere. Try to make sure the ends are lined up. Now with this PVC, it's super important when you're working with it. Do not burn it. It's hard to tell with the black plastic here. Oh, I need to flatten this area out a little bit more right there. With the black plastic, it's hard to tell if it's burning. White plastic, a lot easier. If it starts to turn brown, that means you're burning it, and that's bad because it's toxic. So just be careful there. That's nice and pliable now. I can maybe smooth it out with the handle of this tool. There we go. Okay, moment. I totally just put my thumb into that XACTO blade. Oh, good thing I was recording that. This is a good time to point out that it's worth having a well-stocked first aid kit in your shop. Let me give you a quick tour of what I have in mind and what I'm gonna do to fix this damaged thumb. The first thing here is going to be alcohol prep pad. Let's get one of those ready to go. The Band-Aids that come in this actually kind of suck, so I got some of my own. I prefer the cloth Band-Aids. You know that you're a prop maker when you have a preference on Band-Aids. Use this thing to clean up the wound. Who knows where that, again, tiny little boo-boo. But it's worth keeping it clean. Clean up the whole thumb, might as well. Grab my Band-Aid. And close it up. Good to go. Band-Aid applied, time to resume prop making. Moment of truth, let's see if it fits. And it does. That looks pretty good. That'll go on there, and then this part will go on like that, and that looks all right. Cool. So the next thing I need to do is just clean this up. The edges are still kind of rough. Some of the surfaces are a little uneven from the heat forming. So I've just got my needle file here, starting to work on all the edges and surfaces until they are nice and flat. This will do a little bit of shaping, then I'll grab my sandpaper, get everything nice and smooth. I was sanding this thing by hand and I thought there's got to be a better way to hold this. Turns out I can just put it back on this form and sand it. It's just 100 grit here just to smooth everything out. Anywhere that got a little kind of warped from the heat process. That looks pretty good. Much easier to do it this way than to try and sand those flats with by hand, or with holding it by hand. Great, got this sanded down to about a 220 grit. It's looking pretty good. Next thing I need to do is carve this line in. Where does that go? Just double checking the reference. So that line goes in right about there. I did not do this before heat forming it because I didn't want that to make a weak spot and therefore have it bend there when I heated it up. But it looks like this line goes kind of like that. I'm gonna start this detail by cutting just a little bit of a notch, like that. Again, this is fairly soft material. So I'm cutting just a little V groove in here now. That looks pretty good. But to really clean it up a bit, I'm just gonna take this file, run that over that a little bit to embiggen it a tiny bit. Maybe run some sandpaper in there. Just take a piece of sandpaper, fold it over a couple times, and smooth it over. Like so. Where's my 220? There it is. I'll actually take the sandpaper and wrap it around a file to get a nice hard edge, but to use the file as a nice rigid platform. There we go, that looks nice. So now I have a nice line there. Here we go, time to do something fun. So there are little chamfered discs that go in there, and I thought first, you know, I could throw it on my lathe and knock it out super fast, but then I thought, let's do this again as low tech as possible. This here is Renshape, or HDU, high density urethane foam. We're gonna use that to make our pieces. I'm gonna start by drilling a hole down roughly the center of this. It's not really crucial that it's super center. Got a screw here, that's gonna go down. Then I'm gonna chop the head off this screw. Don't worry, this will make sense in a moment. Ah. Then this piece of material can get chucked up in my drill. I think you know where I'm going with this. And I have made myself a poor man's lathe. I can spin this and shape it to make my cylindrical piece. And I'm gonna shape it using my rotary tool. So it'll look a little bit like this. I'm gonna turn on my dust collection because this is gonna make a mess. I'm gonna put on my mask, put on my goggles, and do this. Making some progress, not destroying sanding drums, great. Keeping the mess to a minimum. This needs to be a 1/2 inch to fit in there. So I have my calipers so I can check, or I can just go, boop, does that fit? So I'm not even close, but you can see that is totally turning that down to a cylinder, which is pretty awesome. Okay, I got it down close. I'm gonna do the rest of the shaping by hand with just this sandpaper. Get it a little bit closer. Realize the end of it is not flat. You know what, I'm just gonna do this real quick. That looks pretty good. I can use some 220 to smooth it down a little bit more. Then I can put a slight chamfer on the end of it. Like that. Again, smooth it down a tiny bit. Like so. I could measure this if I wanted to. I'm gonna arbitrarily say, let's say here. Get it started and slowly, whoops. and go find the part wherever that ended up. Hooray! Then this can get smoothed over a little bit. And hopefully will fit in there nice like. There we go. That can get glued in. So I've got two of these little button things made and they can get glued in. Just gonna super glue them in. And try not to make a total mess. I can put super glue in there and I can spray the back of it with this accelerant. And when I drop it in, it will cure instantly. Just like so. I think that'll do it right there. Let's see how it looks on the gun. All right. So that just needs to get glued in place before we start painting it, which I will do later. That is our little model made piece that I lost and have now recreated. Fantastic. Okay, there's all of our parts now. I even made a little replacement hammer, so that slides in there. This goes on there, and that part goes, I think, kind of like that. There we go. So that's all the parts ready to go, ready for paint. But I think that's gonna have to wait for another video. There we go. That was pretty simple and a lot of fun to make with some fun, simple, low-tech techniques. That's where it fits on the gun, and I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Gonna have to do some more filling and sanding, a little more work on this guy and get it up and painted for BlizzCon in less than 2 weeks, I think. Soon, very soon. So look for Business Reaper there. Hey, thanks so much for checking out the video. I hope you learned a thing or two. And if you did, then share those techniques with your friends and help them become more well-rounded makers. If you have any questions about this particular build, let me know in the comments down below. I try my best to get back to every single one of those. Of course, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We do these videos every single week. We got a lot more projects coming up in the future and you do not want to miss it. That's all I have for you today. Thank you again so much for hanging out with me in the shop. I will see you in the next build. Hey, thanks for watching. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you don't miss any of our new weekly prop and costume tutorial videos. For more goodies, head over to our website where you'll find blueprints, tutorial books, articles, and more. We also have a second channel for our Q&A show and extra behind the scenes videos. Thanks again and happy crafting.